Captain James Mitchell wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the mining robots work in the asteroid field. The Endeavour had been out here for 3 months, collecting rare metals that Earth's colonies desperately needed. It was hard work, but Mitchell loved being among the stars with his crew of 12 good people. The ship was quiet except for the steady hum of the engines and the occasional beep from the control panels. Mitchell's crew worked like a well-oiled machine. Emma Thompson sat at the communications desk, her fingers dancing over the controls as she coordinated with the mining robots. Robert Hayes, the chief engineer, kept everything running smoothly from his position near the engine displays. Another good day's work, Mitchell said to himself, watching the cargo hold fill with precious metals. Earth would pay well for this haul, and his crew would finally get the bonuses they deserved. Suddenly, red lights flashed all over the bridge. The warning alarm screamed so loud that everyone jumped from their seats. Mitchell had never heard it sound so urgent before. "Captain!" Emma shouted over the noise, her face pale as she stared at her screen. "Something big is coming toward us. Really big." Before Mitchell could ask questions, the entire ship shook violently. Coffee cups flew off tables, and crew members grabbed whatever they could to stay standing. Through the main window, space itself seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. Then it appeared. The alien ship was enormous, at least 10 times bigger than the Endeavour. Its hull was smooth and black, covered with strange purple lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Symbols that hurt to look at directly glowed along its sides. The thing looked like it had been built by beings who understood science far beyond anything humans had ever dreamed of. "Sir," Robert called out, his voice shaking, "they're scanning us with some kind of energy beam. Our computers can't even understand what it is." The scanning beam felt wrong somehow, like cold fingers touching every part of the ship. Mitchell could almost sense the alien minds on the other side, studying his vessel like scientists examining an insect. The communication system suddenly crackled to life with a sound like metal scraping against stone. When the voice came through, it spoke perfect English, but with an accent that made everyone's skin crawl. "Primitive humans of the vessel Endeavour, you are now prisoners of Commander Thane of the Corvani Republic. Your small lives belong to us now." Mitchell stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain James Mitchell of Earth. We're peaceful miners. We have no quarrel with you." A sound that might have been laughter came through the speakers. "Peace is not relevant, human. You are valuable because your kind will pay to have you returned." Before anyone could respond, strange lights filled the bridge. Mitchell felt his body becoming light, as if he was dissolving into tiny pieces. The last thing he saw was his crew reaching for him before everything went white. When his vision cleared, Mitchell found himself standing in what looked like a prison cell made of smooth metal walls that glowed with soft light. His entire crew was there with him, all looking confused and frightened. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with electricity. Through bars that seemed to be made of solid light, Mitchell could see the inside of the alien ship. The corridors were huge, designed for beings much larger than humans. Everything was curved and flowing, as if the ship had been grown rather than built. Commander Thane approached their cell, and Mitchell got his first good look at their captor. The alien was tall and thin, with long arms that ended in hands with too many fingers. Its skin was gray and seemed to shimmer in the strange light. Most unsettling were its eyes, completely black with no pupils, like looking into deep space. "Do not be afraid, little humans," Thane said, his voice coming from a small device on his chest that translated his words. "You are valuable merchandise, nothing more. Your species will pay handsomely for your safe return." Emma stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. "Earth doesn't negotiate with kidnappers." Thane made that scraping sound again, which Mitchell realized was probably laughter. "They all say that at first. But we have done this business with 847 different worlds. All have paid rather than lose their people. It is the logical choice." The alien commander walked closer to the light bars, his black eyes reflecting the glow. "Your species is young and weak, but not stupid. They will understand that your lives are worth more than the small price we ask." Dr. Lisa Bennett, the ship's medical officer, moved protectively in front of the younger crew members. "What exactly do you want from Earth?" "Simple things," Thane replied. "Advanced fusion technology, rare minerals, perhaps some of your military secrets. Nothing that will cripple your world, just enough to make this profitable for us." Robert Hayes clenched his fists. "And if they refuse?" Thane's expression didn't change, but something cold entered his voice. "In 847 attempts, only 4 species have refused to pay. Those 4 species no longer exist. We eliminated them as examples to others." Mitchell felt his heart sink. These creatures weren't just kidnappers, they were destroyers of entire worlds. They had turned extortion into a science, perfecting it over centuries of practice. Your leaders have 72 hours to deliver our demands to the coordinates we have provided, Thane continued. After that, we will demonstrate our seriousness by eliminating one crew member every 12 hours until compliance is achieved. As the alien commander walked away, his footsteps echoing in the vast corridor, Mitchell gathered his crew around him. They were alone now, prisoners of beings who saw entire civilizations as nothing more than sources of profit. But James Mitchell didn't know that back on Earth, Admiral William Carter was already preparing a response that would shock the galaxy. Admiral William Carter sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath Earth's defense headquarters. The walls were thick concrete and steel, built to survive anything the universe might throw at the planet. Around the long metal table sat Earth's most important military leaders, their faces grim as they read the alien message that had arrived just 3 hours ago. The ransom demand was displayed on the main screen in cold, simple words. The Corvani wanted advanced fusion reactor designs, 10,000 tons of rare earth metals, and detailed information about Earth's military capabilities. In return, they promised to release Captain Mitchell and his crew unharmed. The deadline was 72 hours. "Sir," said Colonel Diana Foster, sliding a thick folder across the table to Carter. "Our intelligence division has been working non-stop since we received this message. These Corvani have been operating this scheme for over 300 years. Carter opened the folder and studied the photographs and documents inside. Pictures of destroyed worlds, species that had been wiped out completely, and long lists of civilizations that had paid ransoms rather than fight back. 847 successful operations, Foster continued, her voice tight with anger. They've perfected this system. Grab someone important, demand payment, collect their prize, and move on to the next target. General Mark Thompson, head of Earth's Colonial Defense Force, leaned forward. "Admiral, the smart play here might be to pay. We can't risk losing Mitchell and his crew, and we certainly can't risk these aliens following through on their threat to destroy Earth." The room fell silent. Everyone knew Thompson was probably right from a purely logical standpoint. Earth was still young in the galactic community, with limited military resources compared to species that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Carter closed the folder and looked around the table at the faces of Earth's defenders. These men and women had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity, and now they faced an impossible choice. "General Thompson," Carter said slowly, "how many species do you think said the same thing? How many civilizations told themselves it was the smart play to just pay and hope the problem would go away?" Thompson shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Sir, I understand the principle, but we have to be realistic about our capabilities." "Realistic?" Carter stood up, his voice growing stronger. "Let me tell you what's realistic, General. If we pay these criminals today, they'll be back tomorrow. And the day after that. And every species in the galaxy will know that humans can be bought, that we abandon our principles the moment things get difficult." Captain Sarah Wells from Naval Intelligence spoke up. "Admiral, our analysis suggests the Corvani ship is powerful but old. Their technology is advanced, but they rely heavily on fear and intimidation rather than actual fighting ability." Carter nodded, grateful for the support. "What else do we know about their operations?" Wells consulted her tablet. "They typically target isolated ships or small colonies. They avoid military vessels and stay away from heavily defended systems. Their entire business model depends on quick, easy victories against unprepared opponents." "Which suggests they're not used to real resistance," Carter mused. Foster pulled up another document on the main screen. "Sir, if I may, there's something else to consider. Our communications division intercepted chatter from other species after news of our situation started spreading. 3 different civilizations have reached out privately, offering to share intelligence about Corvani operations." The room buzzed with quiet conversation as the implications sank in. Other species were watching to see how Earth would respond. Carter walked to the window that looked out over Earth's sprawling capital city. Millions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that their world's future might depend on the decisions made in this room. "Gentlemen, ladies," Carter said without turning around, "I've made my decision. We will not pay this ransom. We will not negotiate with these criminals. We will bring our people home." General Thompson's chair scraped against the floor as he stood up. "Sir, with respect, that's essentially a declaration of war against a superior force." Carter turned back to face the room, his expression calm but determined. "No, General. It's a declaration that Earth's children are not for sale. Within minutes, the room exploded into activity. Foster began coordinating with fleet commanders throughout the solar system. Wells started pulling together every piece of intelligence they had on Corvani technology and tactics. Communications officers worked to contact every available ship and station. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Captains volunteered their ships for the rescue mission. Crews requested transfers to join the operation. Even civilian captains offered their vessels to help bring Mitchell and his crew home. Carter selected 12 ships for task force rescue, including his own flagship, the Defiance. Each vessel was equipped with Earth's most advanced weapons and crewed by volunteers who understood they might not come home. As the fleet prepared to launch from Lunar Base, news of Earth's decision spread throughout human space. On Mars, workers in the mining colonies cheered. On distant research stations, scientists sent messages of support. Throughout the asteroid belt, merchant captains changed course to offer assistance. But the news traveled beyond human space as well. On alien worlds that had suffered under Corvani extortion for generations, beings who had long given up hope began to wonder if perhaps someone had finally found the courage to say no. Back on the Corvani ship, Commander Thane received Earth's response with complete disbelief. The message was short and simple: we do not negotiate with kidnappers. We are coming for our people. For the first time in 3 centuries of successful operations, Thane felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. These humans were responding exactly like the 4 species his people had been forced to eliminate. But those 4 species had been weak, divided, and unprepared. Perhaps these humans would prove equally easy to destroy. Thane extended the deadline by 24 hours, certain that Earth would come to its senses. After all, they always did. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the star charts displayed on the main screen. His task force had been searching for 4 days now, following every lead and chasing every energy signature that might belong to the Corvani ship. The hunt was proving more difficult than anyone had expected. "Sir," called out Navigation Officer Peter Walsh from his station, "we're picking up some unusual readings near the Centauri Nebula. Could be engine residue from our target." Carter nodded grimly. The Corvani were clever, using the dense gas clouds and electromagnetic storms of various nebulae to hide their energy signature. But they were leaving traces, tiny clues that human sensors were slowly learning to detect. Lieutenant Commander Brian Kelly looked up from the weapons console. "Admiral, the Vanguard reports similar readings 3 light-years from our position. The aliens might be moving in a pattern." Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away on the alien ship, Captain Mitchell was far from sitting quietly in his cell. He had spent the last 3 days carefully studying their prison and the Corvani guards who watched them. What he discovered gave him hope. The aliens were overconfident. They had done this so many times that they barely bothered to watch their prisoners closely. The guards checked on them only twice each day, spending most of their time in what appeared to be a recreation area down the corridor. "Robert," Mitchell whispered to his chief engineer during one of the guards' long absences, "what do you make of the power systems in this section?" Hayes had been studying the glowing walls and light barriers of their prison. "Captain, I think these aliens got lazy. This whole containment system runs on a central power node that's not even properly shielded. If we could overload it somehow." Dr. Bennett leaned closer to hear the conversation. "The meal containers they give us are made of some kind of conductive metal. And the cleaning supplies contain chemicals that might be useful." Emma Thompson had been listening to the guards' conversations through the translation devices they wore. "Captain, I've learned something interesting. They call us standard cargo, and keep talking about routine protocols. I don't think they've ever had prisoners who fought back." Mitchell smiled for the first time since their capture. "Then let's give them something new to worry about." Over the next day, the human crew began their quiet rebellion. Hayes used the metal food containers and cleaning chemicals to create small devices that could interfere with the ship's electrical systems. Bennett discovered that the alien medical scanners couldn't properly read human biology, which meant they had no idea what the prisoners were actually doing. Thompson found that she could tap into the ship's communication system during certain times when the aliens ran their daily scans. The brief connections weren't enough to send a message, but they could listen to Corvani transmissions and learn about the ship's location. "We're hiding in the Titan Nebula," she whispered to Mitchell during one of these listening sessions. "But I think we're moving every few hours to stay ahead of pursuit." The sabotage started small. Hayes rigged one of his devices to cause minor power fluctuations in the prison section. The lights would dim slightly every few minutes, just enough to be annoying. The Corvani guards noticed but assumed it was a minor system glitch. Next, Bennett used her medical knowledge to create a mixture that would make the air recycling system produce a terrible smell in the guard area. The aliens spent hours trying to find the source of the problem, growing more frustrated each day. Mitchell's favorite trick was having the entire crew make noise at random times during the alien sleep cycle. They would bang on the walls, sing loudly, or have pretend arguments. The Corvani, who needed their rest just like any living beings, began to look tired and irritable. But the most important sabotage was Hayes' work on the power coupling system. Using tools improvised from their meal containers, he slowly weakened the connections that powered the ship's sensor array. It was delicate work that had to be done in tiny steps to avoid detection. Back in space, Carter's task force was finally making progress. The Defiance and her sister ships had been analyzing every piece of data they could find about Corvani operations. Captain Sarah Wells had discovered something important in the intelligence files. "Admiral," she reported during their daily briefing, "we've identified a pattern in their previous operations. The Corvani always hide in nebulae or asteroid fields while conducting ransom negotiations. They need to stay hidden but also maintain long-range communications." Carter studied the star chart she provided. "Which limits their options significantly." "Exactly, sir. In this sector, there are only 4 locations that meet their requirements. We've already searched 2 of them." As if responding to their conversation, alarms began sounding throughout the Defiance. Lieutenant Walsh's excited voice cut through the noise. "Sir, we're detecting multiple energy spikes from the Titan Nebula. The pattern matches Corvani power signatures." Carter felt his pulse quicken. "How certain are you, Lieutenant?" 90%, sir. And there's something else. The energy output is fluctuating in an unusual pattern, almost like someone is interfering with their systems. On the alien ship, Hayes' sabotage was finally paying off. The power fluctuations he had been causing were growing stronger, and the Corvani were starting to panic. Commander Thane stormed through the corridors, demanding answers from his engineering crew. "The sensor array keeps failing," one of his subordinates reported in their harsh language. "We're practically blind out here." What Thane didn't know was that each system failure sent out small energy pulses that human sensors were specifically designed to detect. Mitchell's crew was inadvertently creating a beacon that would lead their rescuers straight to them. The hunt was nearly over. Admiral Carter stood perfectly still on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the massive Corvani ship appear on their screens. The alien vessel was hiding among the floating rocks of an ancient asteroid field, its dark hull almost invisible against the black space around it. "Target confirmed, Admiral," whispered Lieutenant Commander Kelly, his fingers hovering over the weapon controls. "The Endeavor's crew is definitely aboard that ship." Carter had spent the last hour studying every detail of their rescue plan. 12 human ships surrounded the Corvani vessel in a careful pattern, each one knowing exactly what to do when the attack began. The crews had trained for scenarios just like this, but none of them had ever faced technology this advanced. "Remember," Carter spoke quietly into his communications device, "our people are prisoners on that ship. Every shot has to count, and we cannot risk hitting the wrong sections." Captain Wells looked up from her intelligence station. "Sir, our scans show the prison area is located in the ship's center section, away from weapons and engines. If we can disable their shields first, boarding teams should be able to reach our crew." Meanwhile, deep inside the Corvani ship, Captain Mitchell felt another violent shudder run through the floor beneath his feet. For the past hour, the alien vessel had been shaking regularly, and the lights kept flickering on and off. "That's not engine trouble," Mitchell whispered to his crew, hope growing in his voice. "That's weapons fire. Someone's attacking this ship." Robert Hayes grinned as he held up the improvised device he had been working on for days. "Captain, I've been saving this for the right moment. This little gadget should shut down the power to our prison cell when I activate it." Emma Thompson pressed her ear against the wall, listening to the sounds coming from deeper in the ship. "I can hear the aliens running around and shouting. They sound scared." Dr. Bennett gathered the crew's makeshift tools and weapons they had created from food containers and cleaning supplies. "Whatever happens, we need to be ready to help our rescuers when they arrive." The attack began with perfect coordination. Carter's stealth frigate struck first, using advanced jammers to blind the Corvani sensors completely. The alien ship suddenly found itself unable to see or detect anything in the space around it. "Phase 2, execute now," Carter ordered calmly. The assault cruisers opened fire with their main weapons, sending brilliant streams of energy directly at the Corvani shields. The alien defenses, designed to frighten primitive species rather than withstand serious military attacks, began failing immediately. Commander Thane ran onto his ship's bridge, his black eyes wide with panic. How did they find us? Our sensors showed no pursuit. His tactical officer's hands shook as he operated the controls. Sir, their weapons are more advanced than our intelligence indicated. Our shields are dropping rapidly. Return fire. Thane screamed, but his weapons officer was already shaking his head. Commander, our targeting systems cannot lock onto their ships. They are using some kind of jamming technology we have never encountered before. In the prison section, Mitchell felt the ship shake so violently that everyone was thrown to the floor. Emergency lights began flashing red, and alarm sounds echoed through the corridors. Now, Robert! Mitchell shouted over the noise. Hayes activated his device, and the light barriers keeping them imprisoned suddenly disappeared. The human crew rushed out of their cell and into the corridor, finally free after days of captivity. The boarding pod struck the Corvani hull like metal fists, cutting through the alien armor with plasma torches designed specifically for ship-to-ship assault. Human marines poured through the holes, wearing heavy combat suits and carrying weapons that could punch through any obstacle. Sergeant David Murphy led the first boarding team, following the ship's layout that intelligence had provided. Alpha Team, move to the prison section. Bravo Team, secure the engine room. Charlie Team, take the bridge. The Corvani defenders had never faced soldiers trained for zero-gravity combat in enclosed spaces. Their weapons were designed for intimidation rather than actual fighting, and their tactics were centuries out of date. Mitchell heard the sound of human voices echoing through the alien corridors and felt his heart soar. That's our people. Everyone, grab anything that can be used as a weapon. Let's help them finish this fight. The human crew split up and began attacking the Corvani from inside their own ship. Hayes used his engineering knowledge to shut down life support in sections where the aliens were trying to make defensive stands. Thompson found the ship's communication system and began broadcasting confusing messages to disrupt their coordination. Dr. Bennett led a group to the medical bay, where they discovered other prisoners from different species that the Corvani had captured over the years. We're getting everyone out of here, she told the frightened aliens in simple words, hoping they would understand. The battle was over within 2 hours. Commander Thane found himself surrounded by human marines in his own command center, his crew either captured or hiding in the deepest parts of their ship. Sergeant Murphy removed his helmet and looked directly at the alien commander. Sir, you are now a prisoner of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You will be treated according to our laws, which is more than you deserve. When Admiral Carter finally boarded the Corvani vessel, he found Captain Mitchell and his entire crew safe and unharmed. The reunion was emotional, with handshakes and embraces all around. Admiral, Mitchell said, his voice filled with gratitude, we never doubted that Earth would come for us. Carter smiled as he looked around at the captured alien ship and its database full of information about centuries of criminal operations. Captain, humanity never abandons its own. The rescue was complete, but the real message to the galaxy was just beginning. Admiral Carter stood in the communication center of the captured Corvani ship, looking at the massive array of transmitters and receivers that connected to thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Behind him, Captain Mitchell and his rescued crew stood at attention, their faces showing the pride and relief of people who had been saved by their own kind. The alien communication system was more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. It could send messages instantly across vast distances, reaching every corner of known space. Carter realized this was the perfect opportunity to send a message that would change everything. Are you sure this will work? Asked Captain Wells, studying the complex alien controls that their technicians were still trying to understand. Our computer experts have been working on this for the past 6 hours, Carter replied. They've figured out how to broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. Every species in the galaxy will receive this message. Commander Thane sat in restraints nearby, his black eyes watching the humans with a mixture of fear and confusion. For the first time in his long life, he was the prisoner instead of the captor. His entire worldview was crumbling as he watched these primitive beings operate his advanced technology with growing skill. Admiral, called out Lieutenant Thompson from the communication console, we're ready to transmit on your command. Carter nodded and stepped in front of the recording device. He had thought carefully about what to say, knowing that his words would reach billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. This was humanity's first real introduction to the galactic community, and it needed to be perfect. This is Admiral William Carter of the Human Colonial Defense Force, broadcasting from the captured vessel of the Corvani criminal organization, he began, his voice clear and strong. Today, we have successfully rescued our people from those who thought they could profit from their suffering. The message was automatically translated into thousands of languages by the alien system, ensuring that every species would understand the words in their own tongue. For too long, the galaxy has lived in fear of criminals who prey upon the innocent, Carter continued. For too long, civilized beings have chosen to pay ransoms rather than fight back against those who would terrorize them. Today, that changes. On distant worlds throughout the galaxy, beings who had suffered under Corvani extortion for generations stopped what they were doing to listen to this incredible message. Species that had paid countless ransoms over the centuries felt something they had not experienced in a long time: hope. Carter gestured to Captain Mitchell and his crew. Behind me stand 12 brave souls who were taken from their peaceful work and held for ransom. The criminals demanded that Earth pay for their return with advanced technology and precious resources. Commander Thane shifted uncomfortably in his restraints, remembering how confident he had been just days ago. He had truly believed that these humans would be just like all the others, quick to pay rather than risk their people's lives. Earth's response was simple, Carter said, his voice growing stronger. We do not negotiate with kidnappers. We do not pay ransoms to criminals. We do not abandon our own people. Instead, we came for them with everything we had. The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. On the bridge of the Defiance, his officers monitored the transmission as it spread from system to system, reaching further into space with each passing moment. To those who would threaten human lives, know this, Carter continued. We will find you. We will stop you. We will ensure that you face justice for your crimes. The days of easy profit from terrorizing innocent beings are over. Captain Mitchell stepped forward, his voice joining the broadcast. I speak for my crew when I say that we never doubted Earth would come for us. We knew that our people would never abandon us to criminals, no matter the cost or risk involved. The message was having an immediate impact across the galaxy. On worlds that had been paying Corvani ransoms for decades, government leaders were calling emergency meetings. Military commanders were dusting off old battle plans that they had never dared to use. But this message is not just about human determination, Carter said. It is a call to every civilized species in the galaxy. The time has come to stand together against those who profit from fear and suffering. As the transmission continued, something remarkable began happening on distant worlds. Species that had never communicated before started sending messages to each other, sharing information about Corvani operations and discussing coordinated responses. The Zentari Republic, which had been paying ransoms to various criminal groups for over 200 years, immediately recalled its diplomats and began mobilizing its defense fleets. The peaceful Valdris Confederation sent a message of support to Earth and offered to share their intelligence about criminal operations in their sector. The Corvani database we have captured contains detailed records of their crimes spanning 3 centuries, Carter announced. This information will be shared freely with all civilized governments to help bring justice to the victims of these criminals. Commander Thane closed his eyes, knowing that his people's criminal empire was finished. The database contained the locations of hidden bases, the names of corrupt officials who had helped them, and the details of operations that other species had never known about. Carter's final words rang across the galaxy with the force of absolute truth. Let this day mark the end of an age of fear. Let it be remembered as the moment when the civilized beings of the galaxy said no to those who would prey upon them. The stars belong to all of us, and we will defend that right together. As the transmission ended, Admiral Carter looked around at his officers and the rescued crew. They had not just saved 12 lives today. They had changed the course of galactic history. Within days, the Corvani criminal organization collapsed completely as their victims finally found the courage to fight back. Other criminal groups, seeing what had happened to their colleagues, quietly disappeared into the dark corners of space. Commander Thane, now imprisoned on Lunar Base, spent his days staring out at the stars and watching human patrol fleets launch to protect trade routes that his people had once terrorized. He finally understood that he had encountered something truly dangerous in the galaxy, a species that would never surrender their principles, no matter the cost.